This is the Horse Radio Network.
You've just landed in episode 519 of Horse Tip Daily. A different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you one day at a time. Today's tip is brought to you by ECOGOLD, Equestrian Textile Engineering. Hi, Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily. Today's tip is from Scott Trees. Scott is known worldwide for his images of the horse. He has been practicing his craft for over 36 years and has more frequent flyer miles than anyone I know. In addition to his striking equine work, Scott also does a variety of commercial shooting. Architecture, fashion, and photojournalism are services that he has provided to his clients all over the world. His dramatic use of light, strong compositional eye, and emotional portrayal have been hallmarks of his style. Today's tip is about the importance of timing. But first, a word from today's sponsor, ECOGOLD. ECOGOLD is a team of experts in the field of textile engineering with more than 50 years of experience in high-performance fabrics. Top international riders like Philip Dutton, Karen O'Connor, McLean Ward, Scott Stewart, Sean French, Ashley Holzer, and many more ride in their state-of-the-art saddle pads and help them develop new products at ECOGOLD. In high-level sports, the right product can give an athlete a competitive edge. And in recent years, there have been several developments in textiles. Just think of sports like hiking, skiing, or cycling, and garments using things like Lycra, Teflon, and Gore-Tex. How about using those high-tech fabrics and smart engineering to improve the performance of our equine athletes? Well, that's where ECOGOLD comes in. With their expertise and contacts in the textile industry, they are able to bring the latest developments in technology to the equestrian market and make the most advanced products to give the horses competitive edge. And they don't have a one-size-fits-all mentality. They use different technologies and different solutions to solve different issues. So ask for ECOGOLD saddle pads and protective boots by name at your local tack store, or visit them online at ecogold.ca. Now, enjoy today's tip. And here we are with Scott Trees, the Horse Radio Network's very favorite horse photographer. It's nice to see you again or hear you again. It's been a while. What have you been up to?
It has been a while. Well, I go overseas. I've been overseas, again, was back in the Middle East into Dubai, and came back in the spring and did some work, but it's been awfully hot. So I've been taking my time to sort of regroup. I do take this time of year to regroup and restructure and figure out what I want to do, kind of reacquaint my family with me to give them a face to the name. And
let me introduce myself. I'm your dad.
Yes, yeah, I'm your dad or I'm your husband. My wife and I chuckle. We've been together 21 years. Because of my travel schedule, we probably only lived together 8, so that's why it still works. So, it's just nice to kind of come home and take a deep breath and regroup.
So it's the off season for you right now.
It is. Yeah, it is. It is, and it isn't. I mean, it is a time of year when I do a lot of work over here as well. But part of it has just been hot this year, and a lot of sessions are we're moving back to fall when it's a little cooler and
a little more reasonable.
A little more reasonable. And I'm kind of at that point in my career. I mean, I've been doing this 41 years, so I'm sort of sitting back and picking the projects I'd like to do and work on some on my own, and trying to enjoy life besides work all the time.
Well, there you go. They say timing is everything, and
Exactly.
It's time for you to have a little regroup time in your career as a whole. But apparently timing is key in a lot of other ways in this whole equine photography thing.
It certainly is, and that's one of the things that I wanted to talk with you about, is the element of timing in photographing horses. Today's digital cameras have made it very easy to do what I call hold and hope. They hold down the button and it shoots real fast, and they hope they're going to get a shot. But even the fastest motor drives today shoot 10 frames a second. But if you actually take a video clip of that same pass of a horse and play it back frame by frame, because there's 30 frames in a second of video, of those 30 frames, only one of those frames is correct in terms of actually nailing the action as it should be. So if you have a high-speed camera, while it improves chances tremendously for a lot of people, you still only have a 30% chance of hitting that shot right. And you don't see it in just horses. I mean, you see it, again, because and you'll hear me refer often to picture takers versus picture creators, and there's a lot of takers out there. And so they just hold down that button, and you hear it, click, 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 click. And it's almost like they just hold it down, and certainly out of, the 100 pictures I just took of this horse, one of them is going to be good in that very brief period of time second. And it doesn't really work that way. And I encourage my students in my seminars to really take the time to learn to watch how a horse moves and synchronize your timing with the movement. And again, because of my career history and when I started shooting and there weren't motor drives, and I shot medium format cameras that certainly didn't have motor drives, and you really had to learn to get in rhythm with the movement of the horse and to get the timing. And so, there's little tricks that you can use. One of the problems that all digital cameras will have, you will notice that sometimes, people will say, gosh, I just can't seem to get the timing. Well, that's because they basically push down the button, go have a cup of coffee, and when they come back, the picture's been taken because it takes so long for the button to actually respond to when they push the trigger.
That's my hang-up. I push the button, and then 3 seconds later, it goes click.
Exactly, and that's called shutter lag. And that's one of the things that you pay for in your higher-end cameras is that sensitivity of that button as to when you push it to when it responds is much more sensitive. And as a matter of fact, even today at some cameras, I'll send it back to the factory and ask them to make it even more sensitive.
So, if I may,
yes,
if this is possible to a non-electronics geek like me, what is it about a digital camera that creates that lag? Because a mechanical camera, the lag is practically non-existent. You press the button, you get the picture. But yet, in the really super-duper high-tech camera that costs you lots and lots of money and has all these fancy things in it, why is that delay there? Is it a product of they are not able to create a chip that can think fast enough? In all honesty, I'm not certain of all the electronic reasons why. There's a gap of time, a time delay gap from the time you basically what you're doing is your button is pushing a sensor, as opposed to our old film cameras where we pushed that button and it actually released a lever that held our shutter open. Right, and when the spring wore out, you got a new spring put in it.
Exactly, and this is all electronic, and so I'm not certain, Jeanette, if it's a matter of how long a gap is in between those synapses that fire in the connections to the circuits or not. I know it's not as big a problem. It tends to be more the point-and-shoot cameras that have that problem. And at differing levels of the digital SLRs, the higher-end SLRs are very sensitive, and even the mid-range digital SLRs are sensitive. But I've never been exactly certain why. I know I have a point-and-shoot Canon G10 that I love, and I've kind of had to learn to adapt my timing to its shutter, which is kind of one of the things I was going to talk about. Is you kind of have to learn, your timing might be a little faster or slower than some. You have to accommodate for that shutter lag in some cameras, and it's not going to be as easy, quite frankly, in a point-and-shoot to nail the action. They're not. That's one reason that a point-and-shoot camera costs anywhere from $200 to $600 as opposed to $1,000 to $5,000.
So, what would be somebody who has a mid-range camera? What would be a typical? Okay, this is going to be your lag time, but training yourself, you can overcome it by developing good timing between when your finger pushes the button and when the animal
I'm not sure I know the answer to exactly what that lag time would be. Because it can be the difference of milliseconds, actually. As I said, if you take a look earlier when I said if there's 30 frames in a second of video, one of those frames is right. And so when you have 10 frames a second, you think that sounds fast, and it is. It's very fast, but it's not necessarily going to guarantee that you hit the shot.
So
I think go ahead.
Is there a point where, for example, all of us are all the time snapping pictures with our camera phones now.
Right.
Is there a point at which the camera lag time is so long that even good training, you're never going to be able to use that kind of a camera to get a good action shot?
I don't. Well, I shouldn't say don't. I tried it a couple times and I've come close, but never really nailed a shot with my iPhone. You know, they're not built for that. I mean, they're built for snapshots. And you know, there is a reason why these higher end cameras, have the features that they do, and one of them certainly is that lag time. So, you know, it's going to vary from camera to camera. So I'm going to kind of assume that you've got a reasonable camera that does, at least when you push the button, it's not like, you know, you wait and have your cup of coffee and a little real comes out and takes a picture for you and bows and pops back in the camera and off you go. I mean, at least you're realizing that at some point you're going to have a reasonable, pretty much when you push that button, it's going to respond.
Okay.
And I've noticed over the years as I've started with the digital cameras when they first came out, and as I've upgraded my models, each model has gotten successively better with that shutter lag. But one of the things that, of course, all the various disciplines are going to have different ways in which they like their horses' legs to look. You know, the saddlebred people obviously are going to want that leg up, as do a lot of the English horses in the Aryan industry. The dressage people are going to want more of that extension. The Western horse people want that knee up. And so all of it has to kind of to do, for my sense of timing, and I just always share kind of how I learned it, is I watch the leg that's inside or closest to me. And let's talk about the trot to begin with. And as that horse starts to put weight down on its pastern, as that ground hits and that weight starts to come down, somewhere in that element, for me, as it just starts to come down, that's kind of where I develop my timing to go now. Boom. And usually if you watch how a horse moves, and a lot of people have video cameras, and a good way to get to see this is just play back some of your video in slow motion. And you can see that as that weight comes down, for most horses, their knee is going to be at its highest elevation. Or as they put more weight on it, they might be at a further extension. And that's kind of where you have to understand and look for your breed. And there's a very small window in there. I mean, you're talking literally from the time the horse starts to put its weight on its foot to all the weight is on its foot to it starts to come back up. In that narrow window is where your opposite leg is going to be where it's supposed to be. And that's where people need to kind of start watching to try and develop their timing.
So you really need to zone in on the legs and not, because I know when I take a picture of a horse, and I'm really crappy at it, I tend to look at the whole picture because I just like to watch the horse, but I need to be able to teach myself.
And actually, once you get your timing, I mean, I watch the whole horse. I mean, the timing for me is a very secondary thing now. But if you're really trying to learn...
that's because you're Scott and you've been doing this for 41 years.
Yeah, I've got the gray hair to prove it. So when you're trying just to learn your sense of timing, and this is where I'm saying don't worry about, you know, the artistic elements, just go out and play with, I'm going to learn my timing. And one of the things I tell people to do is, first of all, put your camera down by your side and watch the horse, and kind of in your mind, as that horse is going by, you go, now, now, now. And then don't put your camera up to your eye, but start taking pictures with your camera down by your side. Just push the shutter button. Now, because for some reason people psych themselves out when they look through the camera and go, oh, my God, I'm not going to get it. I'm going to miss it. It's going to lag. I'm going to lay on my own. Mm-hmm. But so kind of get your mind in thinking of basically you want to get in rhythm with the horse. And so as you get in rhythm, then when you kind of see there, then pull the camera up and start shooting now. Now, today's high-speed cameras certainly do offer some advantages. I mean, I try and encourage people to learn their timing by setting the camera on single shot. But even, for example, if you put it on I have the Canon Mark IV, and if I put it on its high-speed shutter, I can barely touch it and not have it take two pictures. It's just a click. It's not that I'm taking two pictures, but it's so sensitive that you touch it and it goes click. But start off trying to get it with one to begin with, and develop your sense of timing with one, because what will happen is if you get yourself to where you're within those milliseconds of being right, that second high-speed shot most likely is going to be correct.
Well, that makes perfect sense, because if you are trying to develop good timing, hand-to-eye coordination basically, and you've got it on the multi-shot, you're never going to know, okay, you click the button.
Right.
But you don't know which of those 4 is really the one where you press the button.
Well, that's exactly, and that's the whole point of hold and hope. You hold it down and you hope you get a shot. And so it takes some time to develop. And again, I encourage people, go out just to shoot. Don't worry about trying to nail the shot, the aesthetics of the shot. Just get the timing. Cantering's a little different. Usually when I key on a horse, I key on the inside leg as it comes up. When a horse gallops in that rear end and that leg kind of comes up and tucks underneath itself, usually as that inside leg is tucked up, the front of the horse, the legs are going to be bent into the body. Mm-hmm. And again, all horses are going to have slightly different movement, and you kind of have to adapt yourself for that. But at least it's a good place to start, and that's basically what I wanted to do, is give people a starting point so that they can go, well, you know what, for my sense of timing, I really have to take that picture right before his foot hits the ground, or I've got real good reflexes and I can hit it just as the way it goes on that pastern. But at least it gives them a starting place. So
that's a great way to do that. It's a real method. You start by training your eye to watch the parts of the horse. Then you go from there to training yourself to, okay, take it now. So you have timing. And then you go from there to training your hand to press the button at the time that you see, and then the final step is to take the camera and put it to your face. So it's a multi-step process that makes perfect sense, so you don't end up taking hundreds or if not thousands of pictures that just dissatisfy you and frustrate you. Teach yourself one step at a time. Teach your eye, then teach your eye and your hand to work together, and then teach your hand to work the machine after it's already learned to see what it needs to see.
Exactly. Yeah, use the camera as a tool. That's what it is, nothing more.
That's really cool. That's a great way to do it. Why didn't somebody tell me that when I was 16 and I was still paying for film?
Well, because I was still paying for film then, too, and I didn't know enough to tell you.
Well, thanks again, Scott. What a handy-dandy tip for all of us out there who want to take lovely pictures of our horses and our friends and get great ones and go to the local horse show and practice, folks. Well, there you go. Thanks so much for the great tips, Scott. To listen to all of Scott's tips, just go to horsetipdaily.com and go to the Experts drop-down menu on the left. You can also go to treesmedia.com to Scott's website. For more about Scott's excellent seminars, go to equinephotographers.org and click on the Events tab at the top of the page. We also have a link on the show notes page at horsetipdaily.com. Look for episode 519, and you will see a direct link to Scott's seminars. Please stop by the Horse Tip Daily Facebook page and let us know what you think of the tips you hear on the show. It's also a great place to tell us about topics you'd like to hear us cover. You can subscribe to all of the great shows on the Horse Radio Network through iTunes or Zune and get your horse podcasts automatically downloaded to your iPod, Zune, or MP3 player. I'll be back again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, go ride your horse! The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.